Hey there, and welcome back. Today we're modeling Luke Skywalker's lightsaber from scratch. I'll guide you step by step, sharing not only the tools I use, but also my thought process while approaching production ready models, so that you can not only understand the how, but also the why. So let's hit the ground running and dive into creating this iconic piece of pop culture. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is import our reference image of the lightsaber, which is going to help guide our modeling process. We're right now in the perspective view, so let's hit spacebar to access this layout panel. Hover over front and hit spacebar again to access our front orthographic view. From here, let's go to view, image plane, and import our image. If your reference image comes in a little darker than it should be, there's a quick fix. You can just come here to the attribute editor and increase the color offset until you can see all the details nice and clear. Now we're going to try to center our reference image as best as we can, and then we should be ready to start modeling. I'm going to hold down shift and right click to quickly create a cylinder, and let's scale it up. You can see that I have X-ray mode turned on right here, which is going to make it easier for me to place my objects and try to match my reference in the background as best as I can. I'm going to start off with the hilt of the lightsaber. So let's just scale this down until we're getting exactly what we want. And now it's time to start selecting a few faces to do the extrusions at the bottom of the hilt. So I'm just selecting two faces and skipping two faces until we have a selection something like this. And I'm going to hit Control E to extrude and use the pop-up menu to scale and add thickness. I'm also holding down Control and Shift to actually lower the sensitivity of the pop-up menu. And now we can come here to our front view and start making sure that we have exactly what we want. And with something like that, I think I'm going to call it good, and let's move forward. I'm going to just take this reference image and push it a little further behind. Let's just turn on our anti-aliasing so that we can see things a little nicer as well. From here, I'm going to hold tab, which allows us to paint selection. And now we're going to extrude and press R to scale. Okay, and we're going to scale this inward. And this is pretty much going to be most of the process. We're just going to hit Control E to extrude, press W to move, R to scale. And this is how we're going to get most of the details of the lightsaber. I'm gonna take a look at this right here, and I think I'm gonna want to actually scale this up a little more, and I think that should be good. Let's go back and start extruding and moving these faces to get the rest of our shapes. So we want to be trying our best to match the silhouette as close as possible, and you can see currently I'm just moving in broad strokes and trying to get the main shapes done as quick as possible. From here, again, let's extrude, press R to scale it in, extrude it upward, and get the lowest point of this curve. From here, I can select my multi-cut tool, hold Control and Shift to drop an edge loop in the middle, scale it outward, and just bevel it to get the nice curvature. Let's go back, select our faces, and continue the process. At this point, we're just going to extrude and take this straight up till the end of this ribbed portion. And now we can use our Insert Edge Loop tool, which we can find under Mesh Tools, and click on this options box. This is going to allow us to add a number in here. I think I counted 9 on these ribbings, but let's just do another count. So we have 3, 6, 9. So I'm just going to put in 9 edge loops, And with the multiplier, the equal multiplier turned on, I'm just going to drop this. Now we can press R, just select these edge loops, and scale them upward until they match our reference a little more closely. And I think I'm happy with that for now. From here, what we're gonna do is bevel this until we have something like that. And let's go ahead and just select these faces, which we're gonna have to extrude to actually get the ribbing on this part. With that selection, let's go ahead and extrude, add our thickness, play with our offset until we have what we want. And once we're at a good position, we're gonna do something called selection switching, which we can do to switch your selection of components. So in this case, I want to switch from faces to edges. So I'm going to hold down Control and right click and switch from faces to edges to edge parameter, which is just going to select the border edges. Now let's go ahead and bevel that. Let's do 2 segments and we can play with the fraction until we have something nice. I just pressed 3 to get an idea of what it looks like. And I think for now, I am happy with that. The next thing we need to get is the dips right here between the ribbing. And for that, what I'm going to do is, again, just take the Insert Edge Loop tool. Let's switch this to 1 and quickly drop some edge loops right here in the middle. Let's select all these edge loops that we dropped. And now we want to scale them inward, but if we scale them as they are right now, you'll see that they're going to scale from the center of all the components pivots. We want them to scale on their own axis. So for this, you can just double click on your tool, come here, switch the axis orientation to component. And this is going to switch all the pivots to their own individual axis. And from there, we can just scale it and get this nice dip. I do think we might want to add a bevel there as well. So I'm just going to hold down Shift right click again and just do a bevel. Let's play with this fraction a little bit until we have exactly what we want. And I think I am pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and continue this. So right up here, we have a little bit of a curve. And for that, I'm just going to scale this edge loop out and try to actually match even the top vertices to the end of that curve. From there, again, let's select our top faces, make sure they're fully flat, and extrude them inward. Okay, so you can see I've extruded them inward once again. And once I think I have the correct radius, let's go ahead, extrude it upwards again, and extrude and scale outwards once more. So this is pretty much going to be the process for the rest of the pieces. And at this point, I have the first piece finished. Now, one thing to keep in mind is whenever modeling, if you see a material change in your model or in your reference, you want to try to make that a separate object. So what we're going to do is, instead of creating a new cylinder and going through the pain of having to place it, we're just going to duplicate these faces to create a new selection out of them. So Shift right click, duplicate faces. It's going to give us a nice new duplication. From there, let's just center the pivot, scale it down to match our reference, And once we have what we want, let's continue the process. I think I want to scale this out a little bit. And I'm just going to make sure that these faces are flat by just scaling them down. And also that maybe a little more. Let's just select, switch back to world space. Let's scale this out. Yeah, maybe something like that. Let's just take our vertices because maybe they've moved and we're just going to scale them all flat. From here, let's go back to our face selection and extrude it straight up. Here we can see another break in the material. So let's again duplicate the faces. Center that pivot and start scaling it and extruding it once more. And with that, I think we're pretty much done with most of the pieces, most of the main pieces at least. The next thing we're gonna do, which we missed out on earlier, is just get the bottom of the hilt. So let's again select those bottom faces, extrude them, and scale them a little bit inward first. And now let's extrude them downward. Okay, and that gives us pretty much most of the lightsaber. Now, the next thing we want to do is start adding a little more polish to it. And we're going to do this by adding some bevels. So when we press 3 to see our model at the highest fidelity, we can see that we're actually losing a lot of detail and a lot of areas are getting smoothed out during the subdivision process. So we need to add some supporting edge loops or bevels to help these areas hold themselves better and be sharper. So because looking at the reference, it seems like some of the areas have different bevels or a little different highlights than others. We're going to do the bevel process in smaller segments and you'll see what I mean by that. So I'm just going to select these faces and I'm going to switch my selection to edge parameter. And let's just quickly select all the edges that we want to keep sharp. I'm going to also turn on my symmetry to world X just to make this process a little easier. Let's do the same for these top edges as well. I think this is the last edge we need for this particular area. Let's go shift right click bevel and let's do 2 segments. Let's see what that looks like. So I think the bevels are a little sharp compared to the reference. So let's do this again. Let's just do 2 segmented bevel and let's increase the fraction a little bit. Okay. And I think that is looking a little better. The next thing we need to do is add this ribbing at the bottom, and that's going to be fairly simple. Let's just make sure things are lining up like they should first. Turn off symmetry maybe for now. And I think I'm counting about 8 extrusions here. So let's go ahead, select our insert edge loop tool, go to 8, and let's drop 8 edge loops here. We're going to just bevel these edge loops to give us areas that we can extrude. So now we can just select these faces and let's extrude it to get this nice ribbing effect at the bottom. Maybe offset it a little bit as well. The next detail that we missed out on earlier is this small inset. For this, we can very quickly just add an edge loop, bevel it to get the thickness of that inset, and then just select the face loops and extrude them inward, maybe offset them a little. And now I think we have all the details done of our main three pieces, and we're ready to go ahead and start beveling this whole asset out. So let's go bit by bit and just select the main edges that we need to bevel. And for this, I'm just going to be using selection switching as well, just to make the process a little easier. Okay, let's go ahead and do the same at the top. I think 2 segments should be good. Maybe it was a little too much. Okay, and now let's quickly finish up the top as well. Okay, and I think the bottom part is looking pretty good. One of the things that you'll see is we're starting to see a little bit of stretching here because there's not enough edge loops in the middle. So what we can do to just even things out is maybe add a few edge loops, and let's just go ahead and get some support in these areas. Same thing at the bottom as well. And now those places are holding themselves a little better. With that, let's move on to the top. Now for objects like this, which are fairly simple to bevel, I find myself using this very useful tool by Ricardo Rioja. It's a hard edge selector tool, and all you gotta do is click on your object, and right here in my shelf you can see the tool. You can just click on the tool and it should select all the hard edges in your object. From here you can go to edge mode, and right there you can see very quickly you can get a full selection of most of the edges that you need to bevel. I think this is a great tool for any modeler's arsenal, and I've dropped the link to this tool right below. It's completely free, so please check it out, and let's support Ricardo so he can make even more cool tools. From there, let's go ahead and bevel these edge loops. Let's do 2 segments. And at this point, actually, I just realized that I missed the opening at the top of the lightsaber. So let's just quickly go ahead and extrude that inward, maybe something like that. And do a extrusion downward as well. Let's just select these edge loops and bevel them too. Okay, from this point, let's go ahead and do the same for this object as well. We're just gonna do a quick edge loop addition pass to even out some of these areas. Okay, and that feels a little better. Okay, so we're close to the end now, and all we need to do is the extra pieces on the lightsaber. For this part, let's turn off our grid. We don't really need it there anymore, and let's dive back in. So we can see there's a small hole here at the bottom, and that's actually going to be very easy to create. We just need to add a few more edge loops here to support that shape of the circle. And let's just bevel this, get at least 4 faces, and these 4 faces are basically going to guide our circle. So I'm going to turn on symmetry so that I can do this on both sides. Extrude, and I'm going to offset it, hold shift right click, and circularize the components. Let's just play with the radial offset to get the size of the circle. Now delete the faces and select both those edges and bridge them together. And very quickly we have gotten that hole as well. Let's quickly bevel that and we should be good to go. The next thing we're going to do is get this triangular piece. And for that, we're going to actually create a cylinder. And we're going to go to our channel box and reduce the cylinder subdivisions on the axis to 3, which is going to give us this triangular shape. Let's just make sure we've placed it correctly. Let's move it into place. Now, you might be wondering what I'm trying to do with this, but you'll see in a second. So we're just going to get the size of this, which maybe it looks like it's something like that. And I'm going to line up the front of these faces to this hole. From here, let's just go ahead, select all these edges, and quickly bevel them. Okay, and the reason I'm beveling them is to get this kind of rounded shape on the sides. And with that, I think I'm pretty much ready to extract this shape. So I'm going to select this full edge loop and we're going to go to Modify, Convert, Polygon Edges to Curve. This is going to create a curve out of that object, but you can see the edges look a little janky. And for this, we can just go to the inputs and switch the degree to 1. From there, we now have our new curve. Let's just delete this object, and I also deleted the history between them so that this curve is now fresh and clean. All we got to do is select that curve, come here to create, and hit the sweep mesh. And complete sweep mesh. We can also increase the precision here just to add more edge loops between our shape. And at that point, I think we're good to go. Let's just see if the thickness is matching up. Maybe we can reduce this a little bit. Let's just center the pivot, scale it a little bit. And I think we should be good to proceed. The next thing we're going to focus on is the control panel. And this is actually going to be pretty simple. We're going to start from a simple cube and try to place it while looking at the dimensions of our reference. So just making an assumption, I think it might be something like that. From here, we also need to kind of eyeball how thick it is or how much protrusion it has, which I think could be something like that. If you had a side reference for this, it would probably make things a lot easier, but I do think I'm able to get a fair idea of the thickness from this reference as well. So now that we're here, we can see that there are two parts to this. So there is the bottom part, which is another material, right? And then there is going to be the top part right here, which is an extraction. So the first thing we'll do is add some edge loops and create this kind of protrusion at the sides. So let's extrude that and bring it out a little bit. Maybe we can just take this in as well. I think at this point, I'll add an edge loop in the middle and just turn on symmetry just to make things a little easier to deal with. Yeah, so I think that's what the thickness looks like, and these edges seem to be like that. And from there, let's just extract these faces once more, or actually duplicate them so that we get a new object. Let's take the edges of these corners, and by holding V and pointing them to another vertex, we can snap them. Let's go ahead and add some segments to this for the extrusions. And now first, we're going to extrude and get a little bit of thickness. And then we're going to extrude these faces, and we're going to get the rest of it. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. We are pretty close to the end. I'm just going to scale these outward, or actually move them outward a little bit until I'm happy with the placement. And now let's go ahead and do the rest. So first, I'm going to quickly get all the pieces that we need, and then we're going to start going through and beveling. So let's just, again, duplicate these faces. And I'm going to use the Insert Edge Loop tool to add the edge loops to give us these segments in the middle. So let's just go Insert Edge Loop, click on the box. Think counting somewhere around 11. Let's just go with 11 for now. And that gives us some segments. We're just going to select every other of these segments. Maybe I might want to do 12. Okay, and I'm just gonna hit Shift right click and extract these faces this time. So I'm actually making a separate object, but I'm also not just duplicating the faces. And now we just selected the rest of these faces, Shift right click, and let's combine them. Now we have two objects, one is the top one and one is the middle one. From here, we can just select both of these and extrude them straight out to get this black and gold ribbing. So most of our pieces are in place. Let's just go here and create our buttons. So for the buttons, what I'm going to do is actually add some edge loops here at the bottom. And basically what I'm trying to do is get some edge loops that give me the shape that I can extract for these buttons. And I think I have the shape now. What we're gonna do is select these faces, extrude them inward, and then we're going to, with those faces selected, just go Shift right click and duplicate those faces to again create the buttons from that shape itself. Let's just combine them and extrude them outward. So we have these buttons. We're gonna leave the triangle buttons for the last, and let's just go ahead and start beveling all of this. Beveling all of these pieces is gonna be quite straightforward. I'm just gonna select them one by one and use the hard edge selector to bevel them very quickly. Also going to try to use the same fraction for all of them, which is going to make them look more cohesive. Okay, that should be good. Let's go ahead and do the same thing that we just did. So 2 segmented bevel, and then just to fix the end guns on the side, take your multi-cut and slice through them to turn that end gun into 2 4-sided faces. We're gonna do literally the same thing on this one, so let's just isolate it so that we can see better. We don't need all of this extra geo here, so let's just pull it in. But we also want to make sure that it's not being seen. Now, let's just select our mesh. I also like to keep things a little clean, so I'm just going to select these and snap them. And now with our whole mesh selected, I'm just going to hit the hard edge selector once again. And you can see how much I use this tool because it's super handy. And let's do those bevels again. We can also just select these edges as well because we're not actually going to see them. From here, we can start doing the same thing. So take our multi-cut tool. Also, I just realized because I had my mirroring turned on, I've actually got the same detail on the other side. So what I'm going to do is go back before this and turn off my symmetry. And I'm just going to delete this face loop. Delete this face loop as well. I'm just going to select this hole and go fill hole. Okay, and that should be good. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing. Make sure we have all our selections nice and clean. And then 2 segmented bevel. Let's come in with our multi-cut and just quickly start cutting through this to make sure that we're cleaning up these n-gons. For these middle ones, what we want to do is add an edge loop between them, which is going to let us put some space between these 2 n-gons, and then we can solve them by cutting something like this. And at this point, this piece is pretty much done as well. Okay, and this is what it looks like. We need to bevel these buttons, which is going to be as simple as just hitting the hard edge selector and just beveling our edges. And with that done, we've now come to the final additions to the lightsaber, which are these 2 triangular buttons, which are actually going to be very easy to add. We're just going to do the same thing to create a triangle. So let's create a cylinder. Let's come in here to our channel box and reduce the subdivisions on the axis to 3. Let's rotate it correctly. And let's place it. From here, what we're going to do is make the topology of this piece a little better so that we can avoid all these triangles in the middle. And the easiest way to do that is going to be to add edge loops in the middle of all these faces on the side. And then we're going to connect them together. And we're going to delete the edges that we had earlier. And with that, the topology of this is clean. And we have all polygons here as well. Let's extrude this to give it the thickness. Place it. And once we're happy with the placement of this, we can go ahead and bevel it using the hard edge selector once more. Let's add our bevels in. Duplicate this piece. I'm holding J to rotate. Actually, don't think it duplicated. Let's duplicate again with Control D. And I'm going to center the pivot. And then I'm going to hold J to rotate while snapping in degree increments. And there we have it. The other button done as well. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for hanging out with me as we modeled Luke Skywalker's lightsaber from Star Wars. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts or questions in the comments. And if you do decide to model a lightsaber of your own, I'd love to see your progress. So share your work and tag me on Instagram at mesh_labs. See you next time.